Okay, it's 7:30 in the morning, and so far we're holding the midline on our trend. I'd be careful. It looks like prices are going to try to resolve lower. We do have my gray line there. That's the bull bear cross line for the S&Ps, and we are still down here awfully close to that. So it's quite concerning going into the open here. We'll see if that line can hold. So that's the 2420 area, and we start breaking that, then things could start getting really excited for the Bears today. So just keep that in mind going forward. So far, outside of our market maker move, that's our blue line. Um, there's been net sellers up here sitting waiting to sell into those pops, and that's typical in a bear market. Outside of the market maker move high in a bear market, typically gets sold until into the next week, and then we raise our expected moves to higher levels or lower levels depending on the close and stuff on the markets. So something to keep in mind going forward here. Bear market rules do apply. Okay, the Russell's showing a lot of relative weakness, not popping up near as high over the market maker move. Finding sellers a lot faster up here on the Russell. So if we were to roll lower, the Russell will probably break first. So let's just keep that midline on our watch going forward in today's session. Still think we are going to be at some point finding lower lows than what we've seen in the pre-market session so far as today. Okay, that's just my take on this market. Okay, some things that I'm seeing in this market this morning. We'll go through my list real quick here. Volumes are relatively muted so far on the. Here's our NASDAQ, and so far this morning, American Airlines, of course, it's kind of stuck in the mud. Apple, we have news out this morning on Apple. They were talking. Bernstein was out talking about a iPhone recession. It's a second big recession in iPhone sales for Apple. So Apple could have some downside pressure. And Apple's also came out yesterday afternoon about 3:45 and announced there are initial plans to roll back the next launch of the iPhone. So that really took Apple on the chin yesterday afternoon. So keep that in mind. Micron so far this morning, it's actually coming back in a little bit. It's been hovering around 45. Had earnings yesterday. It is popping on the earnings. I have a strangle on Micron. I might be up a little bit on the strangle, but not much. I luckily bought it early enough in the day that I might have a big enough move on it to get it. But basically, it's really not moving um, uh, near as much as needed for a big payout for me on a strangle. But oh well, that's the way it goes. And then basically these volumes just pathetic so far this morning. So after 7 o'clock and volumes like this, really upsetting, disappointing. Then on our S&Ps, similar situation. Boeing is popping again. Boeing, we are continuing the short squeeze in Boeing. Um, and just really, it's about the one that's really outperforming all these markets here. So keep that in mind. Ford was lowered to junk rating yesterday. So it's down a little bit today. That's really bad for them and their creditors trying to go get lines of credit being issued as a junk stock or a credit. So very bad for bad news for Ford going forward here. So keep that in mind going forward in your trading. Okay, and see here, really quite anemic volumes this morning. Our spiders, we're getting close to 2 million shares already. So not too bad on our S&Ps so far this morning. We are down. It looks like we are weakening a little bit better here on our S&Ps. So we might be breaking away from that trend line as we speak. So basically the S&Ps are pretty much ruling the roost. And like I said, on a trending day, I want to see the Qs at least 2/3 of the value of the S&Ps. This suggests to me that we are going to be chopping all over the place today. So something to keep in mind going forward. Um, and ideally, I'd like to see the Qs even higher volume than the S&Ps. That's more difficult to do, but I do like seeing 2/3. Okay. Okay. Dow Jones. Like I said, Boeing, Apple. Very light volumes though. Microsoft showing up on this one. Uh, it looks like even Microsoft's under a little bit of selling pressure here. So keep that in mind. Really surprising. Apple's holding out as well as it is based on the news flow that's coming out on Apple. So that's something that I'm keeping on watch going forward here. Um, I'm still got Disney and Wynn Resorts. Those companies, I read through the stimulus bill, and I don't know how those companies are actually benefiting from this stimulus bill. So these are the ones that I'm worried that if we start rolling over, they're going to have a lot of problems. Okay, and then let's see here, what else we got. So far on our forex, I did notice here that the well, it looks like it's backing off. We are making some headway here on the dollar. With all this stimulus, we're at $2 trillion of stimulus. I was concerned that the euro US dollar, that the dollar would continue to outperform most of the globe. It's really nice to see that we're actually getting some responsive selling pressure in the dollar, which that is more bullish for the markets, seeing the dollar coming in a little bit. Ideally, that's what we want to see. So obviously, the people aren't running to the door, uh, dumping out of their bonds, dumping out our equities, and driving the dollar higher. In this environment. So that is a bullish scenario going forward in this market. Another thing I wanted to point out: the U.S. dollar JPY. It's one of the leaders on this pair combination here. So if I bring that up, this is what I was wanting to show you. This is the carry trade, and we actually want to see something like this going on the daily here. Okay, and basically what I'm seeing here on the U.S. dollar, basically this going this direction, this is against your carry trade, and I'm actually I like seeing a sell off in the U.S. dollar versus the JPY, because that means that they can take out corporate debt in in the JPY, and Asian markets and stuff can take out corporate debt and benefit versus a weaker dollar. So something to keep in mind going forward. U.S. corporations love to take out debt in Japanese yen, and then the dollar with it, and then hopefully have the dollar fade for the benefit of taking on that debt. So that's a major trade for economic growth engine in the markets. So something that is a very positive development in the overnight session. Okay, another thing I like seeing here, we are holding a bid in our bonds, and considering all the stimulus the government's putting in there, they don't really want a collapse in the bonds. That means fear. At these elevated levels, a collapse in the bonds means there's fear in the bond market, and they do not want to see that in these markets. So, actually holding a solid bid up here, that is a bullish scenario in these markets. And then we have our VIX futures. Some things I want to mention about that going forward here. We are keeping a bid to this morning in our volatility. So, just something to keep in mind. Volatility, high volatility is not necessarily a bad thing, but if you want longer term investors coming in, a breakdown in volatility is more constructive for a bullish scenario in these markets. And if you go to your trade desk here, something I'm also looking at on our VIX, we are back into backwardation on our VIX. So that is something to think positive here. Let's see if I can get this to show you here. There it is. The active contracts are 5360, and if you go out about 55 days, about 60 days out, it's only 45. Okay, so the relative net change That's something I'd look for every day. You know, we're getting a bigger net change on the front dated VIX. So they're buying more protection right now versus buying protection out in the future. That suggests to me we have a flattening of the VIX curve, in my opinion, going out in the future. So this is a more bullish scenario in the markets going into the trading day today. So something to keep in mind going forward in your trading. Okay, some of the ratings going on this morning. Somebody came out on Kroger, underperformed, 28 target on. So we're right there right now. Underperform on Kroger. I don't know about that. Uh, but we all know what's been going the run on the stores with this whole coronavirus thing. I think somebody's drinking some Kool-Aid or something. But now I just pointed that out. Underperform on Walmart, Target 98, so that's even less than what we're currently trading at. Way down here, they're talking about for Walmart. Uh, Probably that there is a potential for that, thinking that we're probably not seeing a lot of big ticket sales in Walmart. They're just buying the basic needed necessities for Walmart, and not a lot of buying unessential things in Walmart. Micron, we had multiple ratings on that. One was a buy, one was a target of $60. So that puts it way up here. Another one was they lowered their target down to 48, so that puts it up here. So it gives you some of the ratings. They had upgrades, but they're lowering their targets. Okay, that gives you an idea on Micron right here, right now. We are right here at this 20 SMA, trying to decide whether or not we want to push out going into today's session. So ordinarily, right here, I would be liquidating my position, overnight position, but I think I'm going to give this a little bit of room to run in today's session because I think if we do catch a bid in this market, Micron could be an outperformer today. So we'll see what happens and go from there. Service now, we have a grade 325 price target buy 325. That puts it up here on Service Now this morning. So somebody's really sticking their neck out on that one. So keep that one in mind. And that puts us right back in target with the gap up. So something to note going forward here. Somebody thinks this is an oversold reaction, and Service Now's not really going to be impacted by this coronavirus thing. And now I was really kind of amazed. These are some of my favorite ratings changes in the overnight, and that's Alibaba for one to overweight, target 248. So that puts it off my chart. Okay, so that was just an outright blowout ratings change here in Alibaba. So far, nobody's really buying into the ratings chain. So this is something I'm really watching. We are right on that bull bear line, in my opinion, for Alibaba. So this is one I'm really going to be watching closely this morning. I think we're going to see relative strength in Alibaba this morning, especially with that massive ratings change. Then you had Baidu also. Okay, and so it has a ratings change for 140. So that puts that way up here. So that's near the swing highs on Alibaba. And anytime I do that, I'd look at KWEB and see how it's been performing. And it looks like it came up to the 20 SMA yesterday and found a little bit of initial selling. So that's one I will keep on watch going forward into today's session. I think we're going to see some outperforming in the Chinese names. We did see several ratings on the railroads today. Something also to keep in mind, we came up, tagged our 20 SMA. So many of these stocks yesterday tagged their 20 SMA. That's something you got to be concerned about. They're all hitting these, tagging these 20s and backing off. So are we going to build out value higher, or was that just it for the dead cat bounce for the next leg lower? That's the big question we've got going on in today's session. So keep that in mind going forward. And we also have Goldman Sachs with an upgrade. Okay, and it's got a hold rating, but 160 is the target. So that's pretty much nothing grade. And then we had a downgrade on Apple to 300, and we know where it's at, 245. So that's actually an upgrade. So they're actually, I think they're still trying to target the 266 area for Apple. So just keep that in mind. I'm really hesitant of trying to short Apple, um, in the current, since it hasn't tagged that 20 SMA yet, in my opinion. Let's see here. We had better guidance from Micron than what most analysts expected today. Uh, Bristol Myers, a new drug, Zepoz, I can't even pronounce it, Zeposia. The FDA approved it today. So it does have a little bit of a bid. Zeposia, there you go, that's what you call it. So that does have a slight little bid for that. Boeing had the short squeeze, keeps it going. Expedia was downgraded to sell, so something to keep on watch. Target price, Target was lowered to 120 on Target, and that's still considerably higher for Target. And then Netflix had the big sell off yesterday. I didn't know, I didn't find it anywhere, but they had a partial outage yesterday. And as of this morning, they restored all service to Netflix. So we might actually see an outperform in Netflix in today's session, considering they have fixed the outage from yesterday. And I think that is about it for my notes. Okay. Yep. Like the video if you like it. I'm just right here, right now. I'm not really bullish or bearish. I'm just going to try to look at some of the order flow at the open to decide which way I want to go. Based on my charts, the Qs are trying to, that's the one I'm really going to be watching is the Qs. If it's going to hold this midline today or not. We do have overlapping daily value right here, so I'm not really trying to be over bear, but we have burned up a lot of we have burned up a lot. The VIX is showing a little bit of a bid this morning at these heightened levels, so you have to be a little concerned that we might be taking a little bit of profit off the table. And like I mentioned yesterday, I thought we were going to come back and back test this trend line yesterday, which we didn't do. So something to keep on watch going forward here. And I don't like seeing negative headlines for Apple for a bullish tape. So, okay, that's everything. And I will see you around. Like the video if you like it. And please leave comments if you're seeing stuff that I'm not seeing. I really appreciate all the feedback. And, thanks a lot for watching my videos. And be sure and retweet it on Twitter if you get a chance. My handle is Gumby9662C.